Hi, my name is Ana Campos, and I work for Los Angeles Public Library. And today I have one of the biggest honors. I'm interviewing a civil rights activist, the co-founder of the National Farm Workers, Cesar Chavez, the founder of Dolores Huerta organization, and it's a true honor. Thank you so much. And you're also a labor leader. You're an icon, a legend. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this. It's really a dream. I had mentioned earlier, I have one of my degrees is Chicano Studies, and I read so much about you. I read about Cesar Chavez, and it's sort of like you have something in a book, and now you see the real person. And as a librarian, it's like, wow, you exist, you're real. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ana. Thank you for that. But one of my sons, my youngest son, Ricardo, he says, "Mother, you're not an icon. You're an icon."
Yes. You're an icon and an icon.
Yeah.
And your work, you have so much work, and you face so many challenges. I've been reading a lot about your story, and I wonder, what is it that kept you going? What was your motivation? Because I think most of us will quit after you have been arrested over 12 times. In fact, recently, I don't know if I could share that,
Sure,
but recently,
absolutely.
And yet you keep going, and it's inspiration for everyone. So what is it that motivates you?
Well, I was very fortunate that I met a great man named Fred Ross Sr., and he showed me how to do organizing. And he was also the person that taught Cesar Chavez how to organize. And when I talk about organizing, it's not like organizing your closet, okay? This is like actually going to people's homes and really teaching them that if they come together, that they can really solve the issues in their community. But nobody can do it by themselves. They have to come together with other people, and then if they take direct action, kind of challenge the public officials that are there, that they can really make a lot of changes. And not only that, but we also get them to run for office also. And of course, many of them, the people that we organize, many are immigrants. They're first-time citizens, many of them, and what we do is we get them to run for office also. So here we have farm workers and construction workers, people who work as maids in hotels that are, guess what? They're sitting on the school board, and they're sitting on the water board, and then city councils, and recreation boards. And so it's about them taking the power, because that way they know that if they can serve on these decision-making positions, then they can really help the community, because it is the people that are on these boards that make the decisions how our resources are going to be spent. And so it's really, and when you see that you go from community to community and you're able to get people to become engaged and to make changes, it's very, very powerful and exhilarating. And so you want to continue doing that work, because you want to go to as many communities as you can.
I can definitely feel your passion for all this. And I know, like, when you were doing all this work, it was especially during the time where discrimination was prominent for minorities, for Latinos, for women especially, and yet you managed to do it. Was there ever a time when you felt like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this?
No, actually, because when we have setbacks, it just means that we have to do things in a different way to reach more people. But I was very fortunate because I had a very strong mother, and she was a dominant figure in our family. She worked 2 jobs until she had enough money to build her own business, and so I was very fortunate that I was able to have a good education, you might say. And but the other thing too, and I think I shared with you, I lived in the library. When I came home when starting with the grammar school, because my mother always had to work 2 jobs, and so I would go straight to the library, and I would stay there till the library closed. And I did that in elementary school, I did that in high school, and I did that in college. So, doing something with you, Ana, for the library system is really, really close to my heart.
Well, we're extremely happy to have you, and I think you're like the dream patron, the patron we want. We want them to be at the library, to use the library resources. So we're very grateful for that.
There's something that people don't think about, because, I grew up during World War II, and I remember when our president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, they wanted to take money from schools and the library for the war effort, and he said, no, we will not take one dime out of our libraries, because our libraries, our education system is the soul of the country. the soul of our nation. That's how important libraries are, I think, to everybody.
Thank you for that. I will agree with that statement. And you have so many achievements. There's so much. All your work have changed millions of lives. Because of you, we have better labor conditions for people. What is one of your memorable achievements?
Oh, well, there's so many. I think, helping to get the farm workers some of the basic human rights and necessities that they needed, like water, cold drinking water, having toilets in the field, having rest periods, having farm workers giving them the right to organize. This is very important. And I think that's one of the things that we don't have enough in our educational system, to teach people about what labor unions have won. Because a lot of things we take for granted, like if you ask people, how did we get the 8-hour day? Everybody celebrates the 8-hour day, but do we know how we received that? A lot of people don't know. The union labor leaders that fought for the 8-hour day, they were executed. They were hung in Chicago. And so we don't include that in our educational system. So we have to have more books on labor unions. So even public education, we wouldn't have public education and libraries if it were not for the labor movement. So that's something that we have to think about, making more books on labor.
No, I completely agree. And then you work along with many influential people, Robert F. Kennedy, President Barack Obama, President Bill Clinton. Is there something you learned from them? Of course, Cesar Chavez, but is there something that you learned from them?
Well, I think the people that I have been very fortunate to know is that these are all people that are trying to do something for everybody, for the constituents. They're people that want to serve the public. And I think that's something that we should all try to do in whatever shape or form, regardless of what kind of a job that we have or what kind of work that we do. We have to take part of our life has got to be, how can we help other people? And we can volunteer to help somebody else or help another organization. But I think that's what really keeps our country strong, when we are compassionate and we care about maybe the most helpless people, the people that need our help.
I love that you're mentioning that, because as librarians, I think in a small way we try to do that, especially now we have so many programs that are there to help the community. We're helping homeless with homeless resources.
Wow.
Citizenship class. In fact, you talked to some of the students today. We're offering that, and I feel in a way, in this very small way, librarians do try to do that, where we're helping others. And I think on a personal level, it's the joy that we get, and that's what it is. It's that joy that you get from helping other people. So I think we're doing that as librarians. And talking about that, I feel like we're doing like si se puede. And in fact, it's you came out with that phrase, so si se puede, yes we can, that I know even President Barack Obama used. Where did that come from?
Well, it actually came from a meeting I was having in Arizona with some Latino professionals, and Cesar Chavez was doing a 25-day water-only fast at that time. And so we were asking them to come and help us, to come and join us. And we were also trying to get rid of a law that they had passed that if anybody said strike, they could go to prison for 6 months, or if you said boycott anything. And so we were trying to overturn that law. And they said to me, oh, no, Dolores, in Arizona you can't do that. In California, you can do that, but no in Arizona. And I said, si se puede in Arizona. And so that's kind of where that came from. And that night when I reported that to our group that was meeting, where Cesar was fasting, and everybody got up and they started shouting, si se puede, si se puede. And so it kind of became a battle cry. So I like to say that that came from the universe.
It's a beautiful phrase, and I think there are moments where we go, okay, I can do this, I can do this. So thank you for that phrase.
Yeah.
And then for future generations, what legacy do you want to leave for them?
Well, I think we want to leave a legacy of justice. We know that we live in the richest country in the world, the United States of America, and yet we know that somehow a lot of our people don't have the resources that they should have for food, for shelter, for education, for health care. And by continuing to organize and like you're talking about the citizenship class here, helping people become citizens, getting people involved in voting, and trying to bring more money into our educational system so that we can have smaller class sizes, more libraries. Where I live up in the Central Valley of California, our libraries are not open every day. And some places are only open 2 days a week. They're not open in the evenings. And I think how tragic that is, because we know that learning is very important. And libraries supplement what children learn in school, because there's no way that the teachers can teach everything that children need to know. But if they have a library, they can go find the books and the things that they need, not only to help them learn, but to entertain them also, and reading good stories. That is so important. And you can't have a democracy if people are not educated. And that's what we need. If we're going to have justice in our United States of America, we need to have people that are educated and people that can learn and continue learning.
Thank you. And just to add, for the libraries, I know, at least for Los Angeles Public Library, that's one of the things that we're doing. We offer online tutoring programs, and we're entertaining the kids with story time and other events where we bring authors in so they could listen to writers speak. And there's a lot of other things that we're doing to help our community.
Well, thank you for that.
We're trying to keep that legacy alive. And now, speaking of libraries, as a librarian, I always have to ask this question. I know you mentioned that you grew up in libraries. Do you have a favorite author?
Oh my goodness. I think all of the women authors were my favorite authors. I read all of the books of Pearl Buck. I'm going to date myself because these are kind of the stories that I grew up with. The woman who wrote the story about Ramona, who was yeah, I love her stories also.
They're still around, so no, you're still very young. Those books are classics.
Well, I'm going to be 90 next year.
No, you're not.
But I still continue reading it right now. If you look in my briefcase, I have 3 different books, because sometimes I have to try to read one book about something and something about something else. And then as the president of my organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, trying to keep up. I have one about what you call the long distance leaders, because we also have to train our people. Our organization, we do a lot of work in registering people to vote, getting them out to vote, and we're working on different initiatives to bring more money into our school system. And then we're doing a lot of work on the census also. So I always have to try to read something that helps us with our organization, and then also for entertainment. So.
Thank you. And speaking of, when you speak, just when you would visit a class earlier today, and to listen to you. And I think it's something so organic, but you really speak to the people and you grab them, and then the message is so clear. Because I was listening, going like, "Si se puede, si se puede," because your message is there. And now I see, I could see why the work you've done is really shows, because you connect with the people and you have the passion. You really care what people want to do. And speaking of that, so where's your book? I know I was looking, when I researched, I was looking for all these books. I know we have the documentary, which is great, and then all these books, but none of them are by you. Well, when are we going to see that book?
Well, there's a lot of books out there that different people have written. None of them are really authorized by myself, but we are working on a biography or a memoir. And my daughter, Juanita Chavez, who was a former teacher, she's going to be the co-author of that book of mine. But I just want to add one more thing, is that I also like poetry a lot, and we have a big youth program with the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and we actually have 100 youth in our program. And one of the things that we use is poetry. And then when the young people, they read a poem, and then they reflect on the poem, they write about the poem, and then they have to talk about the poem. And it really helps them, because we have a lot of our young people that have come from really underprivileged backgrounds, a lot of children of farm workers. Some of them have places where they only have one parent, or they're living with their grandmother. And when you see how they are able to grow in confidence just by our poetry classes and our coaching classes, it really makes you feel really well. And so anyway, like we say before, libraries are the foundation of our democracy.
So I'm going to put my plug in. So when that book comes out, we should expect you at the Central Library, right, to do a book presentation and a signing?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
You heard it here?
We'll have to do it.
So we'll be expecting that book. We love what you do, and obviously we love to read a book that is your story from your words. So
thank you.
And I want to thank everyone. Thank you so much. I think you made not my day, but my year by just being here and allowing me to do this. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Anna, and thank you very much for the work that you do, and all the librarians all over. Thank you.
Yeah.